Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, in a previous video I did talk about Quillfish Hisuian form and the possible competitive viability of it, since now it gets EV Light, might actually be pretty good as a defensive switch and so on and so forth. Today I'm going to talk about its Evo, Overqwil, and just see if maybe in Gen 9's meta this might be able to replace something like Arcanine. So starting off with the typing, we have Dark Poison, fantastic defensive typing. You're only weak to ground, you have an immunity, and 4 resist. Offensively, it's not amazing. You have 4 things you're super effective to, but it being very good defensively while also having a little bit of offense just makes this a fantastic typing. And Dark gives you Prankster immunity, so just another benefit there. Looking at abilities, we have Poison Point, Swift Swim, and Intimidate. Now, Intimidate is the most likely candidate for what you're going to be seeing on this thing in a competitive setting. Whereas, Swift Swim, not the worst thing. Could definitely give you some surprise speed control, but it is definitely better than Poison Point, which does not have much of a point, no pun intended, because poisoning things is not actually that great in doubles. Moving on into stats, we have 85 base hit points, 115 base attack, 95 base defense. Special attack and special defense are 65, and speed is 85. Now this is pretty decent stats. The special defense is a little bit low, so this mon is vulnerable to, say, some stab earth powers. Lander's Eye actually threatens this a good bit because of that. But the physical bulk is actually pretty decent. And this also has a good physical attack stat, much like Incineroar. Interesting. Though it is faster than Incineroar, 85 base speed, so. Now, I'm not going to go into its signature move, Bar Barrage. I already talked about that in my Quillfish video. But essentially, it's a decent move, but it's not something you're going to be running on this for the most part. Some obscure setup, this might be a good idea, but for the most part, it's not very consistent to go for poisoning to try to increase your damage, at least not in doubles. Now this does get access to some pretty standard moves like Poison Jab, Dark Pulse, and even has a handful of decent support moves like Icy Wind and Spikes, which Spikes is not that great in doubles, so mostly just Icy Wind. And this can give you one of those surprise non-stab ice beams that seem to always be hanging around in VGC. Now, its move pool's actually not great. Beyond that, you have like Aqua Tail, which is a decent move, but nothing special. There is no physical dark move. Actually, Dark Pulse is the only dark move this thing has. And that's a problem, because there's some really good physical dark moves, and this has access to none of it. At least it didn't in PLA. Now, I do expect it to end up with a larger move pool going into Gen 9, assuming it actually makes it into Gen 9, because per leaks, there are some Hisuian forms that don't actually make it into Scarlet and Violet. So how does this compare to other Intimidate users that basically play the same role? The first one that comes to mind, as I alluded to earlier, is Arcanine. The stats are very similar. I think Arcanine's like a little bit faster, and also has a little better special attack. Overqwil, of course, has a more bulky typing, which just benefits the Intimidate a little bit more. Makes it easier to get off. You only have to worry about one weakness, which if you're just running Shuka Berry, you can survive an Earthquake or something and still get your Intimidate out. But this having a lower move pool means it has a good bit less utility than, say, Arcanine. Arcanine has access to Snarl and Will-O-Wisp, which are just great options for a support, especially a support with Intimidate. Whereas Overqwil just has Icy Wind. That's really not a lot to work with there. So this thing is going to have a good move pool, or have to have its move pool improved for it to actually be good. Otherwise, it's just going to be relatively mediocre. And obviously, this does not replace Incineroar, has no access to Fake Out. Parting Shot's not in PLA, so who knows if it gets it or not. I think if this did get Parting Shot, this would actually be really good, which really that's the only move it needs for it to be extremely good. Maybe if they would just take Parting Shot off of Incineroar and put it on this thing, that would actually be fine by me, just so it's not on Incineroar. And Overqwil would not be that disruptive even if it had Parting Shot, because the meta is so used to having a dark type with Intimidate and Parting Shot. I don't think this thing would be too oppressive, especially since it doesn't have the same utility as Incineroar even if it had Parting Shot. So, there's a lot of potential here, but that's all it is, it's just potential. It's not great out of the box, it kinda needs help, and we will see if it is given that help that it needs to actually be good. Just like a physical dark move and Parting Shot, and this thing would be good to go. But currently, I would not pick it over Arcanine just because it doesn't have near the same utility as far as moves go. But hey, that's gonna be it for this video. Gonna keep it a little shorter this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.